recording. Start streaming. Can you check the stream?
Yep, got it open.
Is that...
Good?
Yep.
All right.
You there, Owen?
Party Banter is now live.
Okay. I guess we'll get started. Owen, you there, right?
Here, I am here. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep. We got you.
Sorry, it automatically turns on with the mic off. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Okay. So one quick question I had is, what is this character interaction thing that's in these folders?
So the character interaction is pretty much showing your character interacting with either another character or their environment. And it can, we told everyone that it can be anything from like a comic to an animation, as long as it shows that character, like the character through their interaction.
Okay, cool. And so that's like the first pass of this. That part.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's get started, I guess. Should we go start with group one?
Sure.
Cool. Let me share my screen so we can all see. Cool. You guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. We'll start with group one. We'll go through the character sheets first, since those are the characters, and there's one. Sweet. This is going to go faster. Cool. Looking pretty good to me. Should I go first, Owen, or do you want to go first?
Go for it. Let's go every other, whatever works.
Sure. So I think this is looking pretty good. I think some of the rendering on this is nitpicking, but some of the rendering on this guy is a little weird. Just to me, the shadows look too deep. Small thing. The biggest thing I think to do next, if you want to take this further, is to really think about the materials here. Right now, the drawing's great. The design's looking pretty cool. And you're starting to get a hint of changes in material, but it's still very, very similar. I don't know, some materials have different specularity than others, so you could play with that to help kind of differentiate, different materials. Especially something with the metal part of this could use a little bit more attention. And yeah, that's my biggest thing that could help this.
All right, really quick. I think it's a super cool concept. I like the idea of the halo. I would take out of the sleeve the same green that is being used in the eye so that we only catch that up top. And if you wanted to keep it in the costume, I'd keep it on the costume, but not as a piece of the embroidery or the brocade. I think it's pulling my focus a little bit. Although with the rule of thirds, I do like that you're pushing the eyes around the image. I would also go back and work on those eyes a little more. I think you've got something really cool. It's really strange. I like that we've got atmospheric perspective pushing it back, but make those eyes even weirder. And I'd probably look for a little more, what do you call it? The meaning of life, contrast in the eyes, so that those, so that light is reflecting more. But other than that, I might play around with the different color on the boots, just so that we continue to take our eye back down through the page. I've got no comment, I guess, on the three on the left, but the page is looking really nice.
One last thing also is that I'm noticing is the markings. I don't know if these are supposed to be glowing or not, but some of them feel like they're a little stuck on and not following kind of the light and shadows of the face. So I feel like this should be a little bit darker, and these should be a little bit darker compared to these. I know you're doing it a little bit here, but the graphics are still popping quite a bit. Unless they're supposed to be glowing. If that's the case, then they're glowing. But that's fine. Cool. Moving on. So we'll look at the character interaction. Oh, it's beautiful. Hey, group two. Character sheets. Oh, it's amazing.
Oh, you guys making it easy.
Character interaction, amazing.
Oh boy.
Well, we just scared people
All right.
away from last week. All right.
Probably. You want to go take it away, Owen?
Yeah, go ahead and just clip through these real quick. I think the first thing you got to do if you want people to look at it is have it all laid out on a sheet so it's easy to see and accessible. Otherwise, if you make us work to work, it makes it really tough. I know that you guys know that. Generally speaking, when you're designing something or making something, if you care about it, we will care too. If you don't work on the presentation, which is also a functional part of telling the story, you make it really hard to access. I kind of like the design on this guy. I think I remember seeing this guy last time, and I like that he's getting taller and more life.
Here we go.
But
I'll put it on.
I would go back to black and white. I don't think this guy's ready for color yet. I think
You
this
like
just
the
needs to be
purple
polished up
monster?
and finished off before you move it out
Excuse me.
to color and rendering.
Bill?
Professor?
What the fuck? Thought his name was.
Hello?
Grill?
Oh, man.
Hey, no, I'm here. Can
Yeah.
you hold on? I got to take a call real quick. You want to
Oh,
go to the next one?
sure.
You
Yeah.
squeeched it too hard.
Huh?
You squeeched it too hard.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yay. There we go. Okay. This one here doesn't look like it has changed much to me. If it has at all, I'm not sure. This is a weird place. This is a weird place to pick up. Anyway, I like the weapon. I would definitely take a look at some medieval weapons and see how weapons fit onto poles, if they are socketed, or if they have tongs or tangs. I can't remember what the word is. It's like tines that come back down and keep the weapon from getting cut. This weapon doesn't look like it's actually attached to the pole on the bottom, and that's kind of funky. I do like that that you've cleared up the spear and cleared up that post. I'm starting to remember. Now I'm starting to remember where we were at with that. Again, man, I would love for you to take the middle one, the top color drawing, and then maybe make that twice as big. Push all the rest of the information over. Give it a little bit of breathing room on the page. You don't need to fill every single element of the negative space with another drawing. And I probably would cut out the writing on the top left. Otherwise, this is looking pretty solid.
Sorry about that, guys.
Oh, it's totally fine.
Yeah. Did you want to go back to the other one first, or no? Let's continue with this, and then I'll jump back to the other one because I had a couple things I wanted to say on the other one.
No, go ahead. I've already talked to this one the whole time you were on the phone, so you go ahead if you've got anything.
Okay, so I actually didn't hear anything you said, but I'm just going to go and say what I have to say. I think it's looking pretty good for the most part. I like the details and all the clothing. I think there's some authenticity. Ooh, I used that word in that design. My issue is, or did you not?
No. I just like that word.
My issue is some of the. I mean, obviously there's the drawing. We need to get a little bit more. The one area that I really, really don't like, and it goes to really a lack of reference, and is the head, and especially the hair and the kind of anime face. I think the face isn't the worst thing because you're getting that snake-like thing, but the hair to me feels like there's really there's not the same level of attention to the hair and hairstyle as there is to the clothing. So that's really sticking out to me as something that could be worked on a little bit more. It looks a little too simple anime hairstyle, which, I think if you guys are referencing things, it's always better to reference reality than, other artists, and I said that, I think, early on. So I think that's the one thing that's just sticking out to me. Mostly the biggest thing is the hair. And then, I don't know if Owen mentioned, but I think this feels a little weird. I'm not sure what exactly is going on there.
I did.
Okay. Cool. But other than that, I love all that. That's neat. I love all the little details there. It's looking cool. The pose is working much better than last time, so cool. Okay. I'm going to go back to that other one, David's. Did you crit on these, or did I go through too fast on these?
I did.
Okay.
I didn't talk about the design as much as I talked about making a better layout and making it accessible and easy for us to get into.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then I think we also need a hero pose, I think, just to get the character across a little bit more. Because these are great in terms of showing the design, but not necessarily showing the character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think a nice, cool, a pose that kind of reveals who this character is. Is this a badass warrior character? Is this a kind of, sneaky spy-like character? Right now I just don't know. So that's something to keep in mind. Sorry. Next one. Okay.
Oh, that collar is going the wrong way over left for dead people. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think that the last crit might have worked in the sense that everything that we've seen so far looks like much more attention has been given to the clothing. That being said, guys, don't take armor for granted. Armor moves weird and it fits the body weird, and when you make up armor out of your head, it is painfully obvious. So I talked about Filippo Negrioli last week, and I think you guys can look that guy up and find out some pretty amazing stuff, particularly for these snake characters. Other than that, man, drawing is an issue for this one, and we just need to draw through, make sure that your anatomy is all there, make sure that your muscles are there, your joints are there. I like the poses up at the top and in the middle much more than the pose standing up at the bottom. Although pose standing up at the bottom allows us to kind of access the design. But I kind of think that we need to go back to reference and find out how these clothes work. If we look at that cloak on the left, it's unclear how that actually fits on the right. So there's a lot of material on the left for almost nothing to be coming onto the front or the sides of the character on the right. So, I mean, a little more reference, but you're moving in the right direction. Stuff's starting to look sufficiently weird to be interesting.
Yeah, I agree with all that. It's looking like it's headed the right direction. Even just the silhouette, I think, is looking pretty neat. The character's definitely coming out. But yeah, again, just a little bit more attention to some of the details in looking at your reference. But I agree with Owen. This is like, heading the right direction. Cool. Neat. All right.
So, dude, this one just looks like it's a colored version of exactly what we saw last week. I'm going to say really quick, the thing that jumps out for me on the page is this equality now sign on the far left and on the top. And I think that the character pose, if you did a character pose of this character holding the equality now sign up on a spearhead, you're telling a much more compelling story and giving us something so much more interesting to look at. Like, how often do we ever think about equality now movements and, like, I'm assuming gender role movements and equality movements in fantasy? You're really dealing with something that's, I think, intriguing, and if you're switching up that for just the general dancing pose, I think that you're losing some ground here that you could be capturing. So I'd go back. I would probably look at a character pose with that sign instead of with the dancing. Let the costume inform us that she's a dancer. The amount of stuff that you can find online for belly dancers is incredible. So, I mean, there's so much reference out there. You just need to pull it up and look at it. But I'm thinking that you need that other pose, and you're going to tell a much more compelling story. Go ahead, Professor.
Yeah, I agree with that. The one thing so the thing with the sign that really stands out to me is I know this is just a sketch, but even just the written in English kind of takes me out of the kind of world that everything else seems to be set in. Like, it's this really fantastical world, and then you have just, handwritten signs in English. It pulls me out and brings me back to the real world. So that's something to think about. That's something to think about for all of you guys, whenever you're adding things like signs and written signs. Those have to live and be in the world that you're creating. So those have to be designed as well. Is it a different language or whatnot, or even are they just using fancier looking fonts or slightly alien looking lettering? Something to think about. Okay, and I know these are just sketches, but it's something I want to bring to everybody's attention as they are thinking moving forward. Is there anytime they have to do anything like that? As far as the back to the design, I think the next stage is to, like I said before, think about some of the materials. I think some of this stuff, like, it's still just a drawing with some color on it. I'm not feeling in the rendering or anything how exactly the materials differ from each other. Like if this is supposed to be leather, it should feel a little thicker, and some of these weaves might have beveled edges to them. Little things like that will help take your designs and your drawings and your art into the next stage. Even some of the metal on these earrings might glint a little bit more. Like here, you've got some of the shininess of the glass, so that's coming across in there. But everything else feels pretty not resolved yet. That's all. Cool. Moving on to character interaction.
They did what they wanted to, but they had to, so they did exclusive. I think it's an all right cover. I think that I might move the bird to the right a little bit so that you can open up some breathing room for the character on the bottom to the left. I think the only thing, this obviously isn't done yet. It's a sketch, but I think that in terms of composition, I really have no reason for my eye to bounce from the title loot down to the bird's head, and then I kind of just go back and forth between those two items. I do kind of drag between they didn't want to, but they had to, so they did. But you're not giving me any reason to look down at the character with the spear. This character's got a spear. There's negative space. You can create awesome tension and pull the eye around. Think about that gun on the bird creature pointing right at the cover, breaking the fourth wall, pushing the drama, making us feel the danger, and then create tension that's going to pull our eye around and keep our eye involved on that page. Keep it clear. Go ahead, sir.
So one thing I want to say just about in general with if you guys are doing things like this is you really do have to do more comps and more thumbnails. I think maybe this one jumped into the full painting rendering stage too fast without really doing thumbnails about focusing on the design, the composition, the flow of everything. Like when you squint your eyes, you don't even see the character at the bottom at all when you squint your eyes. You maybe see the bird's head, which is kind of cool. But you guys have to remember, things need to read clearly, and value studies and composition studies will help you get things to that point. That's kind of my biggest thing. I know you guys aren't spending a ton of time on these, but no matter what, you guys should always go through that process of thumbnailing, compositional studies. That'll help eliminate any weird tangents or mistakes, or it'll help you explore different ways to create your image. Be careful about jumping into Photoshop and color too soon. I think that's a big mistake a lot of artists make, because it looks neat. It looks, it's glowing, it's color, it's shiny, but that doesn't mean that it has a solid foundation underneath. So I would honestly make sure you guys remember that. Make sure you remember the importance of thumbnailing and working out your composition in the drawing and sketching stage before you jump into digital. Okay. Oh, animations.
Oh, savage.
These two different ones. All right. Well, they're animations. Like I'm just not sure what exactly we should be commenting on. Like if you're gonna doing something animated, it just takes a little bit of more. You know, it's going to take a lot more time to figure out, and really, you know, you have to do it right. You know, you have to, especially if you're doing something animated related to characters, you have to do it right. It's more than just the motions and mechanics of it. It's really about the characters. And here's sometimes fight kind of things are more mechanical tests, and they don't really reveal much about character. So that's all I got to say about that.
Can I add one quick thing? I think I agree with you. That being said, I think the second one where the punch is blocked and the tail does the fighting back is more intriguing than the other one, just because it's involving that fantastic element of the character, and it looks also like something that could happen. That's a fairly standard defense for a left cross or right cross when you're doing the spinning back fist. It's really clever that you use the tail instead, and so it feels therefore authentic, where the first one just feels a little wonky, or it's like this big sword's coming down and you're just doing this weird kind of sweep. But if I was going to develop one or the other, I would certainly be developing this one right here that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, you know, I didn't even see the tail. I thought it was just a spin elbow knocking them down. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to use the tail, then make sure you use the tail and it's obvious and it silhouettes well. Because right now it doesn't. So. Oh,
maybe it is the elbow and I'm just seeing the tail. Well, if it is the elbow, go ahead and then change that to the tail and prove us right.
Yeah. Cool. All right, where are we at? Group 4. Amazing. Incredible. People have been enjoying their last week of freedom.
Group 4 killed it. All right. I'm going to say go back and look at armor. Really go back and look at armor, particularly on the feet and on the tassets on the thighs. The feet for the sabatons, the tassets for the thighs, and the pauldrons on the shoulders look okay. The rear braces look okay, and I would double check the demi gauntlets on the arms. It's really kind of a strange design. If you're wearing something like that, your arm couldn't really move from the forearm down. There's a thing called a demi gauntlet that goes up into a vambrace, and that's what we're not getting. The silhouette is there, but the actual piece isn't there. But this looks so much better than it did last week. I think we're missing a lot of lames. Lames are the small moving parts between armor pieces that allow these things to actually move and rotate. Getting really close. I would really just crack open some later, like 16th century armor and look at how that stuff actually moves on the body. And you've just got some clarification and tightening up to do. And I like that the helmet is based off the Death's Head Virginette. Cool, really cool design item that most people just kind of skip. So you're close. I just want some clarification in the drawing.
All right. Oh, and you are perfect for critting these, because I have no idea half the words you just said.
Hey, man. Well, I've done the research.
Yeah. I agree with everything Owen said. It's a good start. I think a little bit more attention to the details will help enhance, the design and really bring it into that world of authenticity.
Authenticity.
Even if you look at here, can you guys see where I'm pointing, right? Even just adding that little bit of stitching there, that adds so much more. And I think you need a lot of that type of stuff throughout, where the armor is. Like, you've got the big broad shape, which is great. But again, like Owen said, some of those secondary shapes and details will help bring it to the next level. I'm not a big fan of this color kind of palette when I squint my eyes. It's kind of not the color, but the values. It's kind of random almost to me. Some things are lighter, some things are darker, and when I squint my eyes, it feels like all these points are sticking out, but they don't really add to a nice flow of the character and of the design, if that makes sense. I think that's something that could definitely be worked out a little bit more.
Yeah, can I make one suggestion? Keep all the metal, some kind of metal color. Keep the clothes some other kind of color, and keep the skin or the fur different from both of those things, so that it's just clear right off the bat what we're looking at. Professor Yee is making a great point right now.
Cool. And I don't know what this is. Is this his face still?
That's his face in the helmet. Yeah.
Okay, I guess it confused me because it's like when I look here, it's the color, and I wasn't sure if this were like goggles on the armor, which felt weird to me. So
no, the colors aren't consistent. It seems to me that they're just blocking out the different items so that it's easy for us to read them. That's my guess.
Okay. There we go. Next.
Yeah, baby. It doesn't look like much changed in the costume, but we've got a better pose, giving us a little more energy, and I dig that absolutely. I do not like on the bottom left the arm that's just hanging down, kind of scratching his crotch. I don't mean to be so vulgar, guys, but that's exactly what that kind of looks like. And so I would lift that up, do something else with it, and break the silhouette and get something so much more dynamic. And just looking at your top row of drawings, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we go down 5, 6, 7. I guess number 6, the middle on the bottom, I think is a little more compelling as far as the pose goes. Guys, when you're doing these kinds of plans at this stage, a letter or a number next to every drawing or call out makes it much easier for us to reference. That weapon's still awesome. I'm still in love with it. The only way I could see you making it better is taking the pommel off the back and designing something into the back. A ring, hang something off of it, mirror the tail, something. Get something out of that design instead of just playing it safe with that circle on the back. Yeah, I think we just need to work on that pose, and we're cooking with fire here. Go ahead, sir.
I agree. I think that's weird. Just making, his hand on his hip or something, her hip, maybe. And I agree with it. This seems like a very boring handle and a very, very boring tip there. I think you could do a lot with that. You don't want to get too fancy and crazy because you don't want to draw too much attention away from the awesomeness of the shape. But I think a little something, even just some indication of where the hands usually go, or maybe there's just a little bit more wear and tear. Maybe there's a little bit more, like, look how decorative all the clothing is. Some of that could be incorporated, like Owen said, in the handle. But other than that, looking pretty good. Next.
I like that we're playing with shapes and getting contrast in our shapes. I don't feel like enough of you guys on this project have gone for that. So that being said, I'm not sure that shield is reading particularly the way that person is holding it. If you think about the lever being way in the back on the left, that there's no way that thing would be standing up. So definitely research and look how shields are carried and how shields work. Stay away from any kind of video game reference. Almost every video game completely messes that up. I like the drawing on the right more, even though we're getting dynamics on the left. But if we squint, we're losing almost all of the silhouette on the left. So figure out something to do with that shield on the left, and figure out how to hold a shield on the figure on the right. But the armor is looking interesting. It's lacking all the small details and the material information and just kind of what moves and articulates and how these things are being held together. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I agree with all that. It's definitely more attention to the reference you're looking at, because you're definitely. I think I can feel there's a little that you're looking at reference when doing the armor shape, but not looking close enough. And I think that's kind of the next level you need to take this stuff to. Especially, yeah, definitely what Owen said about the shield. It feels like really fake and not based in reality and not authentic. And there's something about it that takes me out of the the world. You also need to think about this is drawing my eyes just a little bit of intricate decorative design on this clothing, but there's no decorative things anywhere else, which kind of throws me off a little bit. So you need to kind of balance that out. Remember, contrast is the meaning of life, as John said, and this one area of intricate detail is kind of where my eye is looking, because it's very different from everywhere else. That's very, big, plain, simple shapes. So that's something to keep in mind as you guys are designing. Draw the eye to the important areas. Important areas are usually the face, maybe the hands. So make sure good, areas of contrast are there. Like here, it's probably not the best. Well, not the best thought out place to put some, decorative stuff.
Really quick, I know you're switching right now. Really quick, I'd rather see the shield get smaller and see the top half of the body get bigger. Frankly, also make the character more interesting, not just the weapon.
Cool. Yeah. Moving on.
I like the added pose. Definitely get your roommate or your brother or your sister or somebody to hold a broom handle and then take a picture of the pose, particularly for the hands. So reference, guys. We're going to drum on you in the normal course of class, and it just sounds like it's something that we're going to be saying a lot today, but you can't do anything without reference, particularly in the beginning. You just don't have the visual memory bank built up to work without it. So, you guys have time right now. You're not working in a studio and having to do this, in 4 hours. Take the time to take the photograph and get the reference. Make the reference that you need to be successful. If you can't do the drawing, get the reference. It takes 20 minutes of extra time, but it will save you so much time on the back end when you're drawing and painting. I like the character stuff, the characterization. Particularly in the expression, it's interesting. I'd push those expressions more so they read even easier, make them louder and more visible. But look at chainmail, or that guy's got fishnet stockings. But I'm assuming that's chainmail. But reference. Just can't do it without the reference. That's what I've got to say about this one.
Yeah, I agree with all that. For the most part, I like the character. Obviously, a little bit more attention to the detail with the reference on the armor and things like that. But I do not like that sword one single bit with this character. This character's arms do not look like they can hold the sword. It's like, this looks like the little kid that's trying to carry the sword that's too big for them. You know what I mean? It feels like you can just blow at the sword and it'll fall out of this character's hand. So, I don't know if it's important for this character to have a sword. Maybe they have a different type of weapon that may fit their kind of character a little bit better. Something that might be a little quicker. Maybe it's lighter type of blade weapons. I don't know. But right now, that sword and just does not fit this character to me. It just looks way too heavy and like they wouldn't be able to effectively use it. So that's something you guys should always think about. Do the accessories or weapons or whatever you guys are designing, those have to fit the character as well. So they're not separate things you're designing. They should go together. Okay, next.
Okay, so I didn't see this one last week. I think this is the first time I'm seeing it. I'm wondering. No, Dorian was once outgoing talked about. So without reading anything, because I said I'm never going to read anything because I just believe in showing, not telling. Looking at the faces, the top makes me feel like those things switch I would get a more neutral, so that the background on your paint is fine. I would drop the value maybe 30% so that we can still see what's happening on that character. As I squint, I'm losing quite a bit of him. The dark on dark is just almost too much. I like that you're going for that though, but and I can see what you're trying to do, but allow us to access the silhouette and see it. Pretty good amount of tension and leading the eye and directing the eye for a character that's in repose. I'd probably turn that face and look it back at us. I think you'll get a much stronger read, and we'll get to understand more of the character. Pretty sweet with the blue sword casting off the energy. I mean, I would have that blue light reflected up in that mirror polished breastplate and on the clothes around it. Then you can show us some more tricks about how the oh my gosh, the materials are different. Looking at your silhouettes on the bottom, I think you've definitely picked the second best silhouette. I think the stronger silhouette is probably second from the left, but I think that you've got a pretty good one, and with the right amount of work and making it read, you can pop that out and kind of you can use your muscles and push that one through. But if you're going to go back and develop another one, second from the left, I think is also reading really well and making a nice silhouette. Go ahead, please.
Cool. Yeah, I like it for the most part. I agree with everything you said, especially the materials. You can start taking them a little further. This one part gauntlet glove thing feels a little unresolved compared to everything else. Like you got all these cool little details here, and then the cuff there. While this part feels a little blah. So you might want to revisit that just a little bit. It could even be just a change in the materials to make that feel a little bit more resolved. I kind of like the bigger ears you had in the silhouette here.
Heck
and
yeah.
They shrank a little here, and to me, it just doesn't. It looks not quite as interesting without a slightly bigger silhouette. I think ears. I think that might be kind of cool. And while I like the glow here, it feels a little bit much that it's reflecting down here. That means the light's hitting here and reflecting really bright there. So that feels like a little too much to me. Unless this is the sword material is actually blue and not the color. So, yeah, there you go. And everything Owen said. So. I don't mind the face turned that way. I'm wondering if you want to try to at least have the eyes popping maybe towards camera a little bit more. I don't know, might work, might not, but it's really easy to try it out. So there you go. Group 5, character interaction. So this was for that last character, I think, right?
Seems like it, yeah. This has got the ears and everything.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my vote is going to be for the bottom one, just to see a little more of the action. We've already got the character in repose. We understand what the character looks like standing around, just looking badass. But I think the one on the bottom is going to be a little more intriguing. The only problem that I see with it is that we don't have any faces close to the camera to interact with, so it's going to be tough to relate to the characters, kind of feel for them or access them. But we're kind of seeing what they're doing, and that's intriguing. Ironically, on the top, every face is covered up and every hand is closed, so we're losing the eyes and the face to make expression, and we're losing the hands to carry any kind of expression. Although the sword is leading us to where we want to go, I think the bottom one's going to make a better piece.
Yeah, I'd do a couple more thumbnails and try to work some stuff out a little bit more. Neither of these really showcase the character. In terms of, like, honestly, when I look at these, this guy looks way cooler, and this one's more interesting because we're seeing the front of him, and he's doing some crazy Powerball thing. So I just do some more thumbnails, and when you're doing sketch like this in thumbnails, it's better to do a bunch to figure out different ideas than to, do fully painted things and then figure out things don't work, Yeah. There you go. That's what I got to say about that. Moving on, group 6. Character sheet.
I don't see how this one changed.
I think some of these details, some of these guys changed. If I,
go for it.
If I think this is the only change, and I think this looks better, a little bit more referenced and a little bit more. I like the tabs. Just has more character than it did before. Yeah, that's one thing. The second thing I'm going to say is, you guys have to be careful with the kind of softy airbrush look on things. It can get really muddled. It's always nicer to have, a strong sense of lighting and some good shadow shapes to really describe your form. Like when I look at this, it looks so airbrushed. A little bit too much, that some of the forms get lost a little, That's all I got to say about that, because I think we covered a lot of this thing last time, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Is this reference for that last one? No. This is reference for this one.
Is this the same? Oh, Bogdan. Oh, Bogdan is the general name. Okay. Yeah. All right. I think that. All right. So right off the bat, looking at the my first reaction is looking at the spread and looking at the 3 heads and the kind of gear underneath. And I think that if you're not going to put the same kind of energy and effort or love into the extra stuff or the ancillary stuff, then you should probably just leave it out, because it's not helping, and it's probably not hurting, but it's just not doing anything for you. So you think about a chain, and that is your weakest link on the page. So you can drop that stuff. I think the one that was immediately previous did an incredible job on the extra items. And if you're not going to take it to that level, I mean, you probably just don't need to worry about it as much. I'm not sure what's happening on that pose on the bottom in the middle. But I mean, I like that it's breaking the pencil test, and it's dynamic and it's got movement, but I feel the character better on that drawing on the left. So, I mean, I don't want to say go and develop a pose that that doesn't have a dynamic silhouette. But I think if you puff the chest up more, push the arm back, get the hand on the hip, you can really start breaking things up a little bit, and then make that pose ridiculously heroic. And I think that you'll have somebody that's kind of glowing and exuding those heroic qualities. I'm not getting it from that picture on the right.
Yeah, actually, this sketch on the left feels the most resolved out of everything to me. Some of this, it's just not clear. And I don't know if it's also just the way you're cleaning up. I don't know if you had sketches underneath. But there's something getting lost in this kind of cleanup drawing. Like when I look at this guy's got tons of character and attitude. And these guys are just kind of there, and a lot of it feels unresolved. I guess that's my favorite word for today, is a little unresolved. And I don't understand, like Owen said, I don't understand any of this, because none of this is in any of this character. So it's just like some random items that, you can tell me that, this is his book and this is his stuff, but show me, show me. How does he hold it? Where does it go? I'm guessing he's doing some kind of magic stuff here, but it's really not clear. So you just got to make things clear. I still have issues with his head color. Just because I feel like, when you look at these birds, the color kind of goes throughout. Even this, there's a little touch of it down there. This black. even just underneath, there's a couple feathers. I don't know if that's shadow or not, but something about it feels like it's not just one color set. So maybe if you want to keep this head something like that, maybe there are a couple feathers back here that have that color. Maybe the fingertips are that color, so it doesn't. So it feels a little bit more integrated, I guess. Yeah, there you go. And I think that was that. And character interactions. This is our character, I think.
Okay. Again, strangely, no heads turned towards the camera. No relatable. Nothing relatable. So we're missing kind of when we do that, when we cut off the eyes, we cut off the face, we cut off the expression, we're missing the ability to make a relatable instance. So the bad guy is not scary, and the good guy, we can't relate with the fear that they might be feeling. So Courtney used to talk about this idea that our designs and our storytelling needed to both entertain and inform. So if you look at all of these designs, you look at these things, you got to ask, are these entertaining? Are they informing? So I think right now, if I'm looking at this, I am feeling some entertainment coming from here. I mean, I'm kind of getting something dynamic. I'm getting something interesting, but I'm not getting any information. All I know is that a dude with a star on his sword is looking up at this kind of monstrous guy. I guess from where the camera is kind of seated at the bottom, looking up a little bit, that I'm meant to be down there with the character on the right side. I'm kind of getting some things, like we're doing some of the things, we're crossing off some of the T's, we're not dotting all the I's. Like I would turn that bad guy around a little bit, let us see some of the face, let us feel the danger that we're supposed to be getting from that character, so that when we are down looking at it, this kind of mild upshot, we understand that we're also afraid of that character. We're meant to feel that fear. I'm just not feeling that drama pushing all the way. So that's where I'm going right off the bat.
Yeah, the problem is not enough thumbnails, not enough compositional studies, not enough sketching. This is one of those things where you jumped kind of almost immediately into digital because you had this idea and you spent all this time, starting to render things out when you didn't really work out the composition yet. So my suggestion is go back to compositional thumbnails. This goes for everybody. When you guys are creating images, which are essentially illustrations, you want to go through the process of working out what you want your image to be before you start getting to this stage of, rendering and kind of already in this final painting stage. Because right now, like everything Owen said, this is to me, not a very strong image at all. And it's really tempting to jump into Photoshop because you can do this fun stuff really fast. Like you get this cool lighting effect and it looks really dramatic and kind of neat. But it's kind of like, it's kind of putting the icing before you bake the cake. You know what I mean? It's like putting in the, if I'm talking about, building a building, it's like putting in the fancy lighting fixtures before you have a solid foundation or frame to build upon, So thumbnails, brainstorming, compositional studies, those things are going to save you guys a ton of time in the long run. And you'll get stronger compositions, stronger illustrations, and stronger ideas from them. So, I do more thumbnails. Oh, right, thumbnails. I do more because these are, like Owen said, these still have some of the problems that are in your final illustration. Work them out here first, Yeah.
I agree with everything you're saying. I got nothing.
I'm glad you did some thumbnails though. So just do more. Try to resolve the problems, the storytelling problems in your thumbnails. Now I just look silly because I went on and on about, thumbnails, and there were the thumbnails. But do more.
I don't know what I'm
looking at.
I don't know what I'm looking at. I think that these are thumbnails for interaction or for a story moment. I think that this stuff just needs... look, there's a difference between thumbnails for yourself to see if things are working out, and there's a difference between thumbnails for showing off to communicate. I'm not feeling like these are communicating enough, really. And you know, I think these look a lot like notes to yourself and not like thumbnails that are complete enough for us to be making decisions from. Really, if I was going to pick one of these kind of 4 or 5 instances, I would go for the top right. There's the drama, but I would take that moment and thumbnail the living shit out of it to make sure that we're actually making it work and communicating and thinking about value instead of just the line work.
Everything Owen said. Yeah, these are an artist's ideas for themselves, but they need to go further. Right now, there's not much to talk about there. All right, on to monsters. That's stage 3, stage 2, stage 1.
Can you click back through them one more time, please? You know, I'm liking this better than I did last week. I still think I want a little more from the eye. Like everyone's. I mean, well, everyone. That's ridiculous to say. 2 or 3 people have these big eyes that are really featuring as a part of the design, and I'm not worried about authenticity as much as, because I mean this looks like an eye, but I want more from the eye. Like, give me the veins. How does that eye change? That eye is definitely what we are accessing as we go through. So if we go 1, 2, 3, boom, 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 we're going to see that eye in every single piece, right? Now go back to the drawing board and make that eye something that is just as intriguing and just as awesome as the rest of the character. Also, check out the carapace on each one. If you've got designs in the carapace, like the first one, so I would go for some designs in the carapace, right? So the carapace is either basic because it's trying to blend in with a background, or there's something on it. So a little bit of design on the first guy, more on the middle guy, a lot on the third guy. Same thing with the eye. Basic eye, keep the pupil and the retina the same, but maybe the first eye is clean and white, and by the time we get to this third freaked out monster version, then the eye's got something that's also like a lot of veins or something pumping out of it. But I do love that the eye carries us through all 3 different transitions. The other weird thing, see the third one again, please, the large one, please, sir. I wouldn't lose those kind of like alternating blue and those dark blue and light blue pieces that are on the back of the shell. So I feel like for something like this, for it to work, everything that's on the little guy has got to be on the big guy. And what you do is show us how that changes, and then make sure that that's interesting, right? So this is where you are informing us, but you still need to entertain us and pull some of that stuff in. I do see it on the far left, what do you call it, leg, but I'm not catching it anywhere else, and I feel like it's a kind of interesting motif. So the important thing is carry those motifs through the development and make sure that those motifs are changing and staying meaningful. Then you'll have interest.
Yeah,
I do not. Go ahead, please.
No, finish your thoughts.
I think there's this one thing I just, it's so nitpicky, but in between the carapace there's like a white in between that pink, and I'm just not in love with that white. I'd say pick another color and make a decision where that's concerned, and also give me color from the light on these guys. Right now everything's kind of lit by white. I think this could really, with a little bit of warm and cool, really pop. I think this is very close to being a cool design. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said, especially about carrying over the pieces. Like here, I feel like even if you had little nubs of, these things, but they were still, there was some indication that they used to be there, even if they're not there on the 100% on the final one. That'd be kind of cool to help connect the different stages. Or if you were to here, where do those legs emerge from? Maybe
good point.
Maybe you don't necessarily have to put like little nubby legs, but maybe there are certain bumps, in the kind of anatomy that kind of indicate that's where they're going to come out of. I think little things like that would definitely help. It's looking pretty cool for the most part. Oops, sorry. I think this is another one where we can start to think about materials as well, even though it's, most of this is shell, so it's all going to be kind of very similar material. But some of this, I think you can really start to get, make this start to feel different from this somehow. You know what I mean? I would probably darken some of this kind of area just because it should be so much more in shadow. And maybe there's a cast shadow, that this guy is projecting onto the eye. Think about your cast shadows in this. I think that'll help take it to the next stage.
I'm gonna say two more things super fast. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I feel like this person put the work in, and I just, in terms of design, on this third iteration here, I don't know why you didn't go with claws. I mean, maybe that was a conscientious choice to not go with claws. I would probably go with claw. Show a little dew claw on the second one, kind of forming, but or go with one claw on this one to give you some asymmetry that will help to break up the form and give him a threat. We talked about how do these things threaten our heroes, and a claw. I mean, it's so obvious, it's screaming for it, and I'm not sure if you're getting anything by not putting it in. The other thing is, and this goes for everybody on the crit, don't ever bullshit the cast shadow for the entire form. Get a good cast shadow. Let that help inform the direction of the light. Let that help inform your core shadows throughout the piece. But really, I just don't give us a bad shadow if you don't have the time to make a good shadow. That was another thing that Courtney used to talk about all the time. We'll pull our eye to something that is not effective and show us a weakness.
Yeah, I agree with the shadows. They definitely, you need a contact shadow in there that really, grounds them to the ground. The other thing, one last thing, is a little bit more I guess this goes back to Owen's warm, cool comment, is you definitely want some color variety in the lights and the darks, because this looks very monochromatic. Like you're just using a darker version in the shadows of the light color. So warms and cools will help things pop out quite a bit more. Cool. Moving on. This is...
I know exactly what this one was. Yeah, there you go. These are the stages.
So this is stage one. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, baby. I love where this is from last week, and I really appreciate that you took our comments to heart, and whoever did this, and clarified and made much cleaner, solid drawings. I mean, this is something that I'm really interested in now. And if we go to the third, the only problem that I'm thinking is, if we're getting nitpicky on the third, I don't see the presence of the guy. So just like the previous crab crustacean thing that we just looked at, carry the motifs all the way through. So you've got this kind of thing happening where a ghostly monster kind of a thing is coming out of him and then changing him. But from the first one, that monster is a part of him, and his human form is a part of him. So on this one, I would still look for where the guy comes out. Like, it seems like it's all coming out of the head and the shoulder. Can this big weird thing still be supported by the small body at the bottom? Is it like a hot air balloon? Can we get one level weirder? Can we get one level more interesting with this? And then I'd watch out for that beak. I don't feel like you need that big beak, because you did not establish that beak as being a part of the motif coming through the first two iterations. To have it on the last one feels a little weird to me. It's like you're getting just such weird, cool design language, mark making language already. Skip the beak. It's really boring. Give me some other of that weird metastasis or that kind of teratoma look that we had already. That's just my bias, man. So I mean, that's kind of what I find interesting about the piece. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I agree with all that. It's looking really cool. So I want to talk to you guys about the difference between concept and design. So these are great concepts because it's showing the idea, but right now it needs a little bit. You need to start. You got the concept down. Now time to start designing, and designing means really making clear choices as to what is what and what shapes are what are they made out of, things like that. This is a really cool shape, really cool design, but I have no idea what this is supposed to be made out of. You know, is it like a kind of ethereal spirit smoke thing? Is it kind of a, physical, stretchy, kind of gooey material? I don't know. And that's the next stage in taking this concept to the design level, where you start to work out, those kinds of issues, so that it's crystal clear when something gets approved or passed on to, if you're thinking about whatever this is going to be for, whether it's a movie or even a comic book or an illustration, you have to figure out what these things are made out of. What are the little details, and that's the next stage to take this. So I think this is great, but I would take it further just so we can establish exactly what things are. Cool. Interactions.
I think I would move the information off the center of the piece. It's a little boring, right? I think everything that Dave Professor Yee has talked about in the past about thumbnailing until you got it really applies here. The other thing is, like, so here we've got the drama, but I don't feel like it feels like it's moving or it's alive, right? It's just kind of sitting there. And this is a tough place for a lot of biz dev people out there, because this is something that animators do inherently. They think about the movement, and they design movement. They design the kind of the life that's in a situation, and viz dev people design the way something's supposed to look. And this is a place where viz dev people kind of have a tough time. So if you're not already thinking about animation and how these things move, then you got to go out and get reference for that too, and then make sure that the action looks authentic. So right now, I feel like we're kind of void of that. Feels like it's a taxidermed version of that monster attacking a taxidermed version of a human, or a mannequin of a human. And we're really not getting anything out of the camera angle. So but the frequency of value is working. There's a gallon, pint, and teaspoon kind of a thing that makes everything read very clearly. For me, it's just the camera is not set in a way. Like, if we drop that camera down by the legs of the guy and look up at that monster, I mean, how much more dramatic will it be? And we didn't have to do anything to the drawing. Now, if you lift up one claw and then tilt everything over a little bit, give everything the kind of entasis, so that Greek sense of life, out of something that's not alive, then we can get some movement, and we can get just so much more of a dynamic piece. I can see that you're trying. Start thinking like an animator, I think, to take it a little farther.
Yeah, I agree with all that. It's feeling really static right now, and with such a cool creature, especially with he's got all the legs and the shape of the antenna, and you've got all this really great opportunity to create a dynamic composition. Right now, it's a little static. It's all centered. It's hard to tell the depth. I'm not even sure where we are. I thought at first maybe we're underwater, but then I was confused because there's a guy standing on the ground underwater. But everything you guys do, it just has to be clear to the audience. I would do some more thumbnails. And work out some of the compositional things, because I think you have an opportunity to really do something really, really cool and dynamic. Also, think about what feeling you want people to get from your piece, from your illustration. What do you want the audience to feel? That this guy's a threat? Do you want him to feel small? Do you want him to feel very animated? All those things. You have to decide as the artist, and you have to make sure you use the right compositional tools to get that across. So like Owen said, if you move the camera down and we're looking up at this guy, he'll feel much, much scarier to the audience. Because right now, as the audience member, we're kind of far away. We're kind of looking down at everything. And so we're a little detached from it. So that it feels very neutral, which I don't think you want in a piece like this. You want something really dynamic. So there you go. Where were we? Well, shit. I lost track. Did we already do that? We did those, right?
I'm not totally sure.
Did we do Monsters? Okay, that was Monsters 1. Monsters 2.
That was all Monsters 1, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is another case of where I think we should just stay away from color before the drawings are done, because I think this would read stronger as black and white line drawings. In terms of color design, because you do need to design your color, your hues, and your values. I think that the hues are actually okay, but the value frequency is what's really making this hard to read. If we squint, we lose the legs completely. And we lose the mouths completely. I think the idea of having this double-tiered mouth is really intriguing, and I would love to see something on the right. Like on the right one, I would open those mouths and make it one look like a threat, but also make it look informative, and so we can get a clear understanding of what's going on. But I think that you got to start thinking about what that black material is like, how it reacts to light, and then get some kind of light on top of this thing that pulls all these hues together and then flattens out these values so that we can actually understand what's happening here. Or go ahead and just do this in black and white line work. That's another easy solution. But I think that you had a pretty intriguing silhouette in the bottom left corner. So I would just spend some time clarifying that. And this is one of those ones where if you can't make those clarifications yourself, it's important to go get the eyes of people who are not artists to look at this kind of work and tell you if it's clear to them, as well as artists. So I mean, getting many sets of different eyes is super important. Artists will talk to you about artist problems like your hues maybe not working, but or your values maybe not working. But a person who doesn't know what they're talking about will take one look and go, I can't tell what's happening. And that's valuable feedback in itself, even though they can't tell you how to get to the point where it becomes much more legible. But cool concepts, right? Now work on making it visible and accessible. Professor.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you just knock down the value of this creature's skin, so it doesn't, there's not as much contrast between this kind of rock and the skin, I think it'll help out a lot. Just kind of integrating it a little bit more. You'll still see the shape, the differentiation between the skin and the rock, but it just won't stick out. Like when I squint my eyes, it sticks out just a little bit too much, and I think that'll help kind of unify everything a little bit more. I'd also like you to think about exactly what kind of skin this is. Is there any texture to it? It feels a little, I guess, unresolved right now. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a jellyfish type skin. If so, then it may need a little bit more translucency inside, because when I look at this, it feels kind of like that. But right now, I just don't know, and I think that's something you can just resolve, and I think that'll help things out quite a bit. Cool.
Does this go to the previous one, or we
No.
saw these? We saw these last week.
Yeah, it's this.
These don't look. I'm not sure. These feel like they've changed.
Yeah, I don't know.
Stage 3 is still the most interesting, but I don't feel like they've changed, or I don't feel like I can tell what the change is. I like the idea here of the yelling pose, going, doing whatever that was happening. And then if we go to that stage 3, please. I think that this is the most interesting. I could definitely see bringing another one instead of all these call out drawings, particularly the drawing that's the exact same as the painting. I would get rid of that, and then I would show this guy actually doing the scream and show how he changes his frills. I think that's a missed opportunity. I think you said a really awesome thing, Professor, about the idea between concept and design that I hadn't even heard before. And concept is the idea, and design is how we actually make it work. And I feel like this piece, this creature and the last creature both are interesting concepts, but we don't have enough of the design to make them real yet. I'm getting that idea. I'm getting that feeling from these guys right now. If you have anything to add, go for it.
Yeah, I don't think there's much change. I think some of these might be new, but these kind of character poses still need, I think, a little bit of refinement, because when I'm squinting my eyes, I don't see that. I squint my eyes. Imagine this was a silhouetted. You wouldn't see that his mouth is open, which is kind of the key to that, And you're not silhouette. You're starting to silhouette the frilly neck there, but then this tail kind of interrupts that shape. So, always think about the silhouette, guys. This head straight on may not be the best way to do that. This maybe the head's turned a little bit more. Always think about the silhouette when you guys are designing. And I think taking it from concept to design, where you figure out exactly what kind of skin this is, and show that in the artwork. I think that'll help take this to the next level. Cool. That was those monster interactions.
No. I think I don't mean to be disrespectful. Guys, I think if you want us to look at it and comment on it, you got to put in enough that there's something to really kind of talk about, and you got to give us enough meat on the bone that we can actually take a bite. For me, this would be better as a 1 inch by 1.5 inch drawing, and where I could tell you that probably the next one is stronger. Also, I really, really encourage you guys to do your thumbnails in value, particularly if you're going to be doing them on the computer, and it's really easy to do so, because then you're knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone in terms of figuring out the drama, what's happening in the weight and the composition, but also figuring out the value, which is not a small thing to do. So if you're going to be doing them on the computer, I would say be doing them in value as well. If you're going to be drawing them, make sure you're getting good scans. But I mean, this just doesn't read for me.
Yeah, I agree. One thing you guys should always think about when you're doing your thumbnails and compositions is the frame. What's your frame proportions? Are you doing these to like a cinematic type proportion? Because right now it just looks like this square seems really random, like you went to the edge of the page or whatever. I'd probably recompose this so that this character's the main focal point. Like these furries here are really distracting from the cool character and the little baby even. So really think about where your focal point is and design around that. And yeah, furries. So cool thumbnails.
All right, there we go.
So the one thing I'd say, because this is our little bird character, right? That does this frilly neck thing.
Yeah.
When I look at this one that you've chosen, I feel like this is our main character. Which I don't know. I guess that's an okay thing. But I feel like we're missing the opportunity to show this guy off a little bit. That's kind of, that's kind of what I'd say. I think compositionally, these guys are a little even in size. You could probably make him like 15% smaller and maybe him 10% bigger. And that way this guy will be the focal point. Because even in here, for some reason, he feels a little smaller.
Dude, I agree with you. I also think there's a classic issue happening here with the motion and the movement being so much more fluid and energetic in the sketch, and then bringing it up into a painting, everything really stiffens up. And you might be able to, or this artist, whoever this artist is, might be able to take this and paint right on top of the thumbnail and develop straight from the thumbnail while also making the changes. I think that character can get a little smaller in the back right. But I think going back to the idea of informing and entertaining, this is not informing us about the bird character at all, and you might still look at the way that this character is being tackled or being bested, and show this character fighting back. Like this character doesn't want to be bound up and tied up or whatever's happening to it. How does it fight back? It doesn't just lay down and yell. Like look on the YouTube, excuse me. Look on YouTube and look at a video of like a person trying to grab a monkey in one of those monkey mountain things, man. And like watch how a wild animal or a monster actually responds to being aggressed. It's insane. Same thing with a bird. Like, I mean, if you grab a bird or you grab a squirrel. I grabbed a squirrel when I was a kid and I held it up in my hands, and that thing turned around and bit me 13 times as I dropped it. And I mean, I had bite marks from like my chin all the way down my body, down to my leg and my knee. And I was clearly the bigger, stronger aggressor. And so I guess I'm making an argument for thinking about the drama and about the motion and the movement, and thinking like an animator. So you got to reference the movement and the action as well.
I look at these thumbnails that I'm circling. They feel like a little bit more frantic, you know, especially this guy and this guy. Like there's a lot of action going on with that drama that Owen was just kind of talking about. So just something to think about. If you do decide to stick with this one, watch your tangents. One thing people do, especially artists that are just beginning, is they tend to put their subjects full frame, and you get these, you know, it's not touching the edge, but this tangent here is pretty close to the edge. That's pretty close. You're kind of filling the frame and not leaving enough space for viewers' eyes to breathe a little bit, if that makes sense. And they don't need a lot of room, but if you were just to, you know, pull them a little close, either a little closer away from the edges or breaking frame, one or the other. Right now, they're just kind of a little too close in my opinion. But cool. And do black and white before you do color. Although that's not too bad. Okay, that was it. Monsters 3.
All right. So very cool. What an improvement from last week. I mean, it's obvious, it's strong. You took the criticism and went all the way with it. I love that page of action. I also really like that on the design, you broke up the different patches. So I mean, I think last week it was kind of like one patch of one particular kind of fungi, and another patch of another one in another place, another patch of another one in another place. And Professor Yee told you to break it up and pile it all together and mix it in, and you did, and it looks awesome. I think I would work on the head on that piece right there. The head looks like it's in a weird place. Reference it, redraw that head. The body looks pretty okay. I love where you're going with it now. And that stage 2 adolescent, I love the gigantic mushroom. If we go back to the page with the movement, that bottom right one is sweet. I love how big the head is and the jaw is, and the tongue actually feels like it's got a prehensile hand or something. So like this is becoming a really fun project for me. I like this character quite a bit. You're obviously referencing on that bottom left, there's a frog jumping from a tree. You're getting good reference. You're kind of breaking the habit of drawing from your head, and you're actually getting something out of the design. So I think you're moving pretty close to being able to clean up and get a finish out of this.
Yeah,
Professor.
I think it's looking cool. the one thing I might do, and this is kind of, you don't have to, but this is kind of my thinking, is I feel like as we get to this stage 3, I feel like the eyes are too big, and they really break the scale, because like if this is the size of a human, I feel like the eyes should be a little bit smaller in relation to the head. Like maybe they grow a little bit less than the rest of the body. So like when you think about baby looking things, like their eyes are usually bigger in proportion to their body. Like even a tadpole, right? They have big eyes compared to their body, and as they grow, the eyes don't grow quite as big, quite at the same rate as the rest of the body. So that's why things feel like they're adults, you know. So I think, especially with this big guy, just it feels a little too cartoony compared to even these guys. I'd also reference the frog eye, because I think the frog eye is working pretty good here, but that looks a little too generic cartoony. And then after that, I just start taking it to finish, like cleaning it up and thinking about the skin materials and stuff. Cool. Ooh.
Oh, comic book. What? Red, run, quick, run.
Well, I think it landed on him. The giant.
Oh, okay. Well, obviously clear it up, right? It's not clear enough yet, but I like where you're going with it. I might make that giant splash panel, the big one, have the guy and the frog in the panel together. So if he splashed on him, I mean, and crushed him completely, we don't get any of that drama. We don't get to see what's happening. And if you get it right before he splashes on him, then we can relate to the person and feel the threat with the person that's getting smashed. Or conversely, the person's running away and the tongue is wrapping around it. Like I don't know, however you want to do it, leave the person in there so that we can feel the drama. We take the person out, we lose the relatable factor, and we're no longer accessing kind of the terror that's in the scene. But I like where you're going with it. I like how the frog works in the world. Yeah,
the one other thing I do as well is compose this so that we see the frog a little bit clearer. I mean, like we know it's a mushroom on a frog, but that's only because we just looked at the character design. So I think you need to recompose this a little bit better so that frog shows up a little bit more. But yeah, cool. Monsters 4.
Strigo, the ice merchant. I don't see how this has changed. Is there maybe another one moving over?
Nope, that's it. I think maybe it's just color added.
I don't know.
Maybe some of these details. I don't remember.
Oh, maybe some little details. Yeah, I can't remember what we talked about, and I'm not seeing anything that feels like it's different to me. I guess that's the problem with looking at it once a week. But yeah, are you catching any feeling right off the bat?
Yeah, I think this is feeling a little simple in terms of the material and colors. Let's say I think there just could be a little bit more, something indicating that these are different. Like maybe there's a little bit more bevel on some of this, so this feels like a thicker material compared to that. Just something, because this feels pretty simple. Also here, I think just some variety in the specularity will help. I think this is his actual leg, right? So
yes,
I think I just get a little bit more detail into that in terms of exactly how shiny that is. Even here on the beak, there could be, beaks are hard and usually shinier than the face of a feather, and just some indication of that change would help out a lot. That's kind of Yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
Maybe this can look a little darker. When I squint my eyes, I feel like this might need to be a little darker.
I do appreciate that they took the time to draw that gun starting to break that Z space in the fourth wall. Yeah, I mean, I feel like almost everybody on this project has just gone for the profile, and just a little touch like that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a little thing to talk about, but I do appreciate it.
Oh, so you teaming up and doing one. Okay, same thing as we said on the other one. We'll saw it first, right?
Yeah, no, there's nothing. That's the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, Monsters 5. It's the last one.
I like the idea. Again, it's like a fun idea. I would take on that third one. I would still make sure that I think what I like about the first one is that there's some volume for the main body, and I kind of still have a little bit of that feeling on the second one. But on the third one, I feel like I'm losing the volume of the body. So where the tail and the neck go, if that ran straight through, it feels like there's no structure for those legs, particularly being as gigantic as they are. I'd remedy that by stretching out that set of cacti and making it even bigger. So making sure that the bottom pieces are not plugging right into the joints of the hip sockets. Make sure there's the volume there for that body. Also, for this one, and I think for that toad one from earlier, play with levels. So we've got the same size and width kind of cactus all over the place. I think what's working for the second one is that even though the dude's real little, the cactus is huge compared to his body. When we go down to the third one, every cactus is like the same volume, same width, same height, and it's very similar to the head and the neck and the tail and the legs. So go look at cactus. Like some of those pieces are going to be really long, twice as long, 3 times as wide as the other ones. Build visual interest by breaking up that symmetrical form and the repetition of that form. So think about levels, think about widths, and then go for changing it up a little bit. Avoid patterns. Avoid just avoid that repetition, right? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I agree. One of the biggest things that concerns me is there's like the concept's great, but we go back to that design thing where I don't know how these things fit with the legs and the body. Like here it's great in the top one because you see that the legs are actually coming out of the cactus, right? And here I don't really know. It's like you're using the cactus and you're just kind of hiding those joints because you haven't figured it out yet. And especially here, there's no resolution on how these cactus shapes, do they come out of the body of this guy or the legs, or do the legs and the neck and stuff, are they emerging from a cactus shape like it is in the beginning? So that's my biggest thing. And it's one of those things where I've done this in the past because I didn't want to think about it. I would just hide things behind other things, And if you're going to be a designer, you can't do that. You have to kind of resolve the design and how things actually work. I think something like Owen said, the scale of this needs a little bit of work. Like even if these things the cactus themselves grow really big, if the proportion, like the kind of general ratio of these holes to the cactus shape, they're kind of similar to here. They're a little smaller, but they're not giving me a scale cue. Like if you made these much smaller, if you made the thorns smaller and just put more of them, it would show that this guy is much bigger. Because I'm assuming these are birds. These are lazy birds, but lazily drawn birds, but they're birds, and I think some of the scale cues could be better. Cool idea.
That's a fun concept.
And wonderful. Was that it? There's no Monster 6, right? Cool. Okay. Yeah.
Hey, is there another one, guys? Or are you guys going for a finish, or
We're going
what?
for a finish, but we're not critting them because it's school starting. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, good luck,
Can't wait to
guys.
see the finished stuff, guys.
Enjoy
Yep.
your
Have a great time.
freedom. The pain is coming soon. We're gonna bring it.
Have a nice day, guys.
All right. Bye, guys.